I don't know where it ends. I hope it ends soon.
Stay out of it. I mean, if they would just leave it alone and let the free market do its job.
I've had enough. Yeah, I've had enough of this horse shit.
I'm seeing all these videos right now where all those farmers are crying out, not getting no help right now. You know what?
Well, my friends, our farmers are in full-blown crisis, and it's not because of Mother Nature. It's because of Donald Trump's.
Across the Midwest, nearly 600,000 metric tons of U.S. soybeans sit untouched in storage, waiting for buyers who haven't come. Cold warehouses are packed with unsold pork, and grain prices have dropped so low that many farmers can't even break even, just after putting seeds in the ground for next season. In Nebraska, one farmer shared a heartbreaking reality. He's not selling his tractor to upgrade, he's doing it so he can put food on the table for his family.
We just want to work, sell our crop, and have a decent life like everybody else. But if they would just leave it alone.
The slowdown in American agriculture isn't due to floods or droughts this time. It's something more complex and more deliberate. The biggest buyer of U.S. farm goods, China, has simply stopped buying. In early 2025, the Trump administration reignited its trade war with China, only this time the approach was more aggressive. Tariffs weren't just slapped on consumer goods or industrial parts. They were widened to cover entire sectors. Semiconductors, rare earth minerals, electronics. Some rates soared as high as 145%. The White House pitched it as a bold economic move, one aimed at reasserting American dominance and slowing China's technological rise. But China didn't hit back with fiery speeches or matching tariffs. There were no headlines shouting retaliation. Instead, the response was quiet and precise. Beijing simply pulled back, reducing its demand for American goods. No drama, no declarations, just a slow, strategic withdrawal that's now rippling through U.S. farms, warehouses, and family dinner tables.
We never worry about it.
Why not?
Yeah. We always focus on ourselves, how we can do much better.
Without fanfare or public statements, China began quietly stepping away. State-run importers started canceling or pausing their contracts, especially in one of the most politically sensitive areas, U.S. agriculture. Shipments of American soybeans, pork, beef, and wheat gradually disappeared from Chinese customs data. The ports that once welcomed hundreds of thousands of tons of U.S. grain began unloading cargo from Latin America and Eastern Europe instead. According to Bloomberg's reporting in May 2025, Beijing had issued quiet but firm guidance to its top procurement agencies. Do not renew long-term agricultural deals with the United States. Behind closed doors, officials were instructed to build more resilient supply chains, turning to Brazil, Argentina, even Russia, countries seen as more reliable partners in this shifting geopolitical landscape. This wasn't about revenge or saving face. It was a form of economic judo, using the momentum of U.S. policy against itself. Instead of retaliation, China withdrew its demand. No threats, no tariffs, just silence. And for American farmers, that silence has been deafening. As China pulled back, it wasn't just crops and livestock left without a home. It was the livelihoods of entire rural communities, now feeling the weight of a trade war fought without a single shot. For years, America's farmers took pride in feeding the world. The U.S. agricultural sector was more than just an industry. It was a symbol of global leadership, and China was its most valuable customer. But that once reliable partnership is now unraveling, and quickly. Beijing isn't just cutting back on purchases. It's replacing the U.S. entirely. Brazilian soybeans now dominate markets that, just a few years ago, were firmly in American hands. In some regions, U.S. exporters once held more than 70% of the market. Now that share is nearly gone. Argentine beef fills supermarket shelves in Shanghai, and Russian grain, once barely a blip on China's import radar, is now flowing through new infrastructure corridors into China's northern provinces. What's most alarming for U.S. producers isn't just the loss of volume. It's the permanence of it. According to recent Reuters reports, many of these new trade agreements are long-term, stretching well into 2030 and beyond. They lock in pricing, logistics, and delivery schedules with suppliers who are now seen as more politically stable and strategically aligned. These aren't stopgaps, they're structural changes. Even if the U.S. were to lift all tariffs tomorrow, Even if a Chinese delegation arrived in Washington waving an olive branch, the market may not come back. The ships won't return. The contracts are already signed. The relationships have already shifted. And that's the deeper wound. This isn't just about lost revenue, it's about lost relevance. American agriculture, once at the center of global trade, is now being written out of the script. The U.S. isn't just missing out on trade deals, it's being quietly pushed to the sidelines. Once seen as indispensable, American agriculture is now being treated as optional. Drive through the rural heartland, Iowa, Kansas, Missouri, Nebraska, and you'll feel it. The frustration isn't loud or fiery, it's quiet, heavy, like the kind of storm that's been building for years and has finally arrived. These communities know hardship. They've endured droughts, floods, unpredictable markets, even a global pandemic. But this time it feels different. This time it feels personal. What's sinking in now is a sense of betrayal. Groups like the National Farmers Union and the American Soybean Association aren't calling for more bailouts. They're pleading for something far more essential: the return of global customers. Trade, not aid. As one Iowa farmer told CNN, "We've weathered every kind of storm nature can throw at us. But losing trust in trade, there's no insurance for that." Many of these farmers once stood firmly behind the America First trade agenda. They believed in the promise of tough negotiations and fairer deals. They accepted short-term pain for the hope of long-term gain. But 5 years on, a hard question is being asked out loud. Was the pain the plan all along? This isn't just an economic downturn, it's a crisis of confidence. More and more farmers are choosing not to replant next season. Some are selling equipment, some selling land. Others are stepping off the fields entirely to take jobs in town, breaking the generational bond between land and family that once defined rural American life. And when rural America, the backbone of the nation's food supply, starts questioning whether it still matters, that's not just a policy issue, that's a national reckoning. While the U.S. and China remain locked in a quiet but intensifying economic standoff, the ripple effects are reaching far beyond their own borders, and they're landing hardest in places least equipped to handle them. In import-dependent nations like Egypt, the Philippines, Kenya, and Nigeria, the fallout is now visible in local markets and grocery store aisles. Prices for staple goods, wheat, corn, soy-based animal feed, have jumped 10 to 15% since April, according to data from the UN's Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, and regional monitoring agencies. Governments caught off guard are scrambling. Some are imposing emergency export bans to protect domestic supplies. Others are urgently trying to renegotiate grain deals with secondary suppliers like India and Argentina, often at higher costs and tighter margins. Aid organizations are sounding the alarm. They're not warning about drought or crop failure. This time, the threat comes from politics. The FAO issued a public bulletin last month, warning that prolonged disruption in U.S.-China agricultural trade could destabilize fragile food systems, particularly in countries where stockpiles are low and currencies are under pressure. This isn't just an economic feud between two superpowers. It's becoming a global food security crisis. And the most painful part? It didn't have to happen. Every ton of soy that goes unsold, every field that goes unplanted, is more than just a missed transaction. It's a slow erosion of trust. In trade, in diplomacy, in the idea that the global food system is built on something stronger than politics. At a time when war, inflation, and climate shocks are already straining supply chains, this trade war is pouring fuel on a fire the world can't afford to let burn. For generations, farmers believed in a simple promise: that hard work would be rewarded, that their government would stand by them in times of crisis, and that the world would always need what they grew. Through wars, recessions, and global upheaval, that trust held. But today, it's wearing thin, and in some places, it's breaking. No one may be shouting it from rooftops, but the feeling is unmistakable. Many farmers now see themselves not as partners in national progress, but as expendable, as pawns in a trade war they never chose to fight. They feel like background noise in a geopolitical game being played far above their heads. And here's why that matters. When people lose trust, they stop showing up. Farmers hesitate to reinvest. Young adults leave the land their families worked for generations. Equipment rusts in barns. Towns slowly fade. This is no longer just a supply chain problem. It's the unraveling of a social contract, one that once bound rural America to the country it fed. And once that trust is gone, rebuilding it isn't just hard, it's nearly impossible. So we're left with a sobering question. Are we truly protecting America, or are we punishing parts of it to prove a point? Because trade policy, at its best, is a tool to create opportunity, not a weapon that leaves our own communities quietly bleeding. What do you think? Is this the price of leadership, or a failure to understand what strength really looks like? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this breakdown helpful, give it a like. It really makes a difference. And if you're interested in more in-depth, fact-based analysis like this, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. The headlines may move fast, but it's what they leave out that often tells the real story.